The planet was burning. Smoke filled the sky. Red fire lit up the black night. Buildings were broken. Trees were on fire. The ground shook as bombs fell in the distance. A soldier named Mark Ellis ran through the ruins. He wore a black suit and held a laser rifle. He was human from Earth and part of a rescue team. But the mission had failed. There were too many enemies, too many deaths. Now he just wanted to survive. His boots crushed metal and ash. He heard nothing but wind and the cries of creatures dying in the distance. Mark stopped when he saw something strange, a small cave hidden behind a fallen ship. A soft blue light came from inside. He looked around. No sign of movement. He moved closer carefully. Inside the cave, he found her. She was an alien tall, with glowing blue skin and long white hair. She was covered in wounds. Her body shook as she tried to breathe. In her arms, she held a small bundle wrapped in a silver cloth. Mark raised his weapon, unsure. But the alien looked at him, not with fear, with pain. She spoke. Her voice was soft, broken. "Please, take my child. Run." Mark froze. "What?" The alien held out the bundle. Her arms were weak, but her eyes were full of fear, not for herself, but for the child. "They are coming," she whispered. "They will kill her or use her." Mark looked down. Inside the cloth was a baby, small, glowing, with tiny hands and big eyes. She was not crying. She was staring at him. Her eyes were golden like stars. "I don't understand," Mark said. "Why me?" "You're human," the alien said. "That's why. You're not part of the war. You still have a heart." She coughed, blood falling from her lips. Her hands shook. "Take her," she begged. "Keep her safe. Hide her far away. She must not fall into their hands." Mark looked into the child's eyes. Something inside him changed. He didn't know why, but he felt a connection. The child blinked slowly, almost like she understood. He took the baby into his arms. The alien mother smiled. "Her name is Lyra," she said. "She is not just a child. She is a key, a hope, but also a danger. You must protect her, even from herself." Mark looked confused. "What do you mean?" The alien touched his arm. Her hand was cold. "She is not what she seems. If they find her, they will destroy everything. Please, promise me." Mark nodded slowly. "I promise." The alien closed her eyes. One last breath escaped her lips. She was gone. Mark looked down at Lyra. She was still silent, but her small fingers grabbed his armor. She didn't cry. She just watched him. Suddenly, a sound, footsteps, fast, heavy, coming toward the cave. Mark turned quickly. He heard metal echoing outside. He looked through a crack in the rock. Shadow creatures, tall, dark, with red eyes, were searching the area. He held Lyra close and moved deeper into the cave. There had to be another way out. He found a broken tunnel leading to an old base underground. He ran through it. Dust fell from the ceiling. He moved fast, his heart beating hard in his chest. Behind him, the creatures entered the cave. Mark kept running. He saw a small escape pod ahead, half buried in dirt, but still working. He jumped inside, sealed the door, and hit the power button. The pod shook. Lyra opened her eyes wide. She started to glow brighter. Soft light filled the small space. Mark stared at her, amazed. "You're not just a child," he whispered. "What are you?" The pod launched into the sky. Just as the cave exploded behind them, flames rose. The planet continued to burn. Inside the pod, Lyra looked at Mark and smiled for the first time. But in that smile, there was something else. Something old. Something powerful. Mark didn't know where they were going. He didn't know what Lyra really was, but he had made a promise. He had taken the child. Now, he had to run. 1 year later, a small moon far from Earth. Quiet skies. Cold winds. No war, no fire. No noise, just a simple home made of metal and stone, standing alone under a sky with 3 suns. Inside that home, a man was cooking soup. His name was Mark Ellis, and he was not a soldier anymore. Now he was a father, not by blood, not by choice, but by a promise. A year ago, he had taken a child from a dying alien mother. He had escaped the war and brought the baby here, a hidden colony, where no one asked questions. The child's name was Lyra, but Lyra was not like other children. No powers today, Lyra, Mark said, as he placed a bowl on the table. The little girl sat with her legs crossed. She was 5 years old now, or maybe not. He wasn't sure how her species aged. But she looked older than a baby, yet younger than a child. Her skin was soft blue, her hair silver white, and her eyes golden like stars. She nodded. Okay. But the spoon in her bowl floated up by itself. Mark sighed. That's not no powers. Lyra giggled. I'm sorry. She waved her hand, and the spoon dropped back into the bowl with a splash. Mark had tried to raise her like a human. He taught her to eat, to talk, to sleep at night, and say please and thank you. But sometimes strange things happened. Sometimes lights flickered when she cried. Sometimes machines turned on without touching them. Sometimes she spoke in a language that didn't exist on any known planet. Mark had kept her hidden. He told people she was a rescued alien child from a dead planet. The colony didn't care, as long as she didn't cause trouble. But deep down, he knew something was coming, and tonight it began. Later that night, Mark sat on the porch under the stars. He looked up at the sky, thinking about Earth, about the war, about the alien mother who gave him her child. Lyra was inside, drawing pictures on the wall with colored chalk. She was quiet for a long time. Then she called, Mark? He stood and walked in. Yeah, kid? She pointed to a drawing. Mark's heart stopped. It was a picture of him, standing in front of their house, and behind him was a tall alien woman with glowing eyes. She's coming, Lyra said softly. Mark stared at her. Who is she? Lyra didn't answer. She only whispered, my mother, but not the same. That night, the colony sensors picked up something strange. A ship had entered orbit. No ID, no signal. No reply, just silence. Mark didn't sleep. He kept Lyra close, a bag packed, a weapon loaded. But Lyra didn't seem scared. Before bed, she said something that made Mark's skin crawl. Don't be afraid. She's watching us right now. At midnight, the house lights went off. Complete darkness. Mark jumped up, his gun in hand, Lyra in his arms. A voice came from the shadows. Put the weapon down. Mark aimed at the voice. Show yourself. A figure stepped into the moonlight. Tall, glowing blue skin, long white hair, eyes like fire. It was Lyra's mother, or someone who looked like her, but she wasn't bleeding. She wasn't weak. She looked stronger, colder. You were not supposed to raise her, the alien woman said. Mark's voice was dry. You died. I saw you die. She didn't blink. I am not the same. You were given a task, not a right. Lyra stood beside Mark. She looked at the woman but didn't run. Are you my mother? She asked. The woman looked at her. For a moment, something warm passed through her face, but then she said, I was, before they changed me. Mark stepped between them. What do you want? The alien mother looked at Lyra. She has awakened too early. She is unstable. She must be taken back. Mark shook his head. She's not a weapon. She's a child. She's my daughter now. The woman's eyes glowed brighter. You don't understand. She is not just a child. She carries something ancient, something hidden inside her DNA. Mark tightened his grip on the gun, but Lyra whispered, Mark, I don't feel good. Her body began to glow. Brighter and brighter. Lights in the room exploded. Wind blew from nowhere. Mark looked at the woman. What's happening to her? She answered with fear in her voice for the first time. They're waking her, and when she wakes, none of us may survive. Night on the colony moon was never truly dark. 3 pale moons hung in the sky, casting cold light on the quiet metal buildings. The air was still, too still, and something was wrong. Mark sat beside Lyra. She was sleeping on the floor, glowing softly. Her skin shimmered like starlight. Her heartbeat pulsed through the room like a hum. He had never seen her like this before. She wasn't sick. She was changing. Earlier, the strange woman, the one who looked like Lyra's mother, had left without a sound. No answers. No warnings, just one sentence before disappearing into the shadows. Protect her, if you can. Mark didn't sleep. His weapon rested on his lap. His eyes stayed on the child he had raised, loved, and now feared. He didn't fully know. Suddenly, Lyra gasped. She sat up with wide eyes. Her voice came out in a whisper, but it wasn't her voice. They're watching us from above. Mark leaned closer. Who, Lyra? She looked at him, confused. I don't know, but they feel familiar. Her hands trembled. The room grew colder. And then, a knock at the door. Not loud. Just polite. Knock. Knock. Mark stood up, his heart pounding. No one knocked here, not at this hour. Not on this moon. He looked at Lyra. She didn't move. She whispered, he's here. Mark opened the door slowly, weapon raised. Outside stood a man or something shaped like one. He wore no armor, no helmet. His skin was silver gray, eyes black and deep. His body glowed faintly, like stars behind thin clouds. He looked at Mark and said in a calm, cold voice, "The child must come with me." Mark aimed his weapon. Not happening. The man didn't blink. You don't understand what she is. She is not yours. Mark stepped forward. She's not yours either. The figure's eyes narrowed. She doesn't belong to anyone. She was built to awaken. Lyra appeared at the door, barefoot, silent. The figure looked at her and bowed his head slightly. Lyra said softly, "I know you. You were in my dream." The man nodded. That was not a dream. It was a memory from before you were born. Mark looked at her. Lyra, go inside. But she didn't move. Her eyes were glowing now, not golden, white, blinding. She looked at the figure. I want to remember everything. The man stepped forward and reached out his hand. Mark fired his weapon. The shot passed through the figure like smoke. No blood. No pain. The figure turned his head slowly, as if disappointed. You still think in human ways, he said. Suddenly, Lyra fell to her knees. She screamed, but there was no sound, just light. Blinding white light exploded from her body. Mark was thrown backward, hitting the wall. The figure raised a hand and vanished like dust in the wind. Silence. Smoke. Lyra lay on the floor, breathing hard. Mark crawled to her side. She opened her eyes, but they were different now. She looked up at him, and in a voice older than her years, she said, "They made me to save them. But I think I might destroy them instead." Mark stared at her. Who, Lyra? Who made you? She looked at the stars through the window. And whispered, "The ones who are still coming." In that moment, Mark understood one thing. Lyra was not just running from a war. She was the reason it had begun. Far away in deep space, a massive ship moved through darkness. It was silent, cold, full of sleeping machines. A light blinked on. A voice echoed in the shadows. Hybrid signature confirmed. Phase 2 begins. Asterisk. The stars held secrets. And Lyra was starting to remember them. She sat on the cold floor, her knees pulled to her chest, staring out of the small window of Mark's home. She hadn't spoken since the silver-eyed visitor vanished. Mark watched her from the kitchen. He was trying to stay calm, trying to think, but nothing made sense anymore. A child that glowed. A woman who died and came back. A man made of light. Who walked through bullets. What had he brought into his life? What had he promised to protect? Lyra turned to him suddenly. Her voice was quiet. Mark, can you show me the stars? He blinked. You mean outside? She nodded. Mark hesitated. She had just released a pulse of energy that fried every sensor in the colony. Stepping outside felt risky, but something in her eyes had changed. They weren't glowing anymore. They looked sad. Later that night, they sat on a hill above the colony. The stars above them were endless. Lyra pointed to a small cluster. There, she said. That's where I was made. Mark looked at her. You were born there? No. She said, I was built. The wind grew colder. Mark asked, carefully, Lyra, who built you? She took a deep breath. And then, for the first time, she remembered. Flashback. Cold metal walls. Voices speaking in two languages, one human, one alien, giant machines. Long tubes filled with glowing liquid, and inside those tubes, children, hundreds of them. Some looked like her. Others looked like twisted versions of humans, with wires under their skin and eyes that never blinked. She saw a woman in a white coat. A human scientist. And beside her, Sira, her alien mother, before the war, before the fear. Sira was smiling then, hopeful. Then came fire. The machines exploded. Screams filled the lab. The children were taken. And Lyra was the only one that got away. Back on the hill, Lyra gasped. Tears rolled down her cheeks. They lied to me, she whispered. Mark knelt beside her. Who lied? Everyone, she said. My real mother. She gave me away before the war. Not to protect May, but to hide me from the other ones. From the ones who helped make me. Mark looked confused. You mean humans? Lyra nodded. And aliens. Together, they made me. I was supposed to be a bridge between two species. But something went wrong. I was too powerful. Mark sat back in shock. All this time, he thought she was a victim. Now, he realized she was the weapon both sides feared. He stood up, pacing. So they made you, and then what? Tried to erase you? Lyra didn't answer. Instead, she held out her hand. Touch me, she said. I'll show you. Mark hesitated, then reached out. The moment their hands touched, his mind exploded with images. He saw the lab. He saw scientists arguing. He saw files with his name, Mark Ellis, soldier selected for Project Guardian. What is this? He shouted. I never signed up for this. A voice replied in his head. Yes, you did. You just don't remember. Mark pulled away, breathing hard. They wiped my memory. Lyra nodded. They planted you near the war zone. So when my mother ran, you would be there, ready, waiting. You were never a rescue mission, Mark muttered. You were a delivery. Suddenly, the sky lit up. A ship, massive, triangular, blacker than space, appeared above the colony. Mark grabbed his rifle. They found us. Lyra stood up slowly. No, they remembered me. A voice echoed through the sky, loud and smooth. Project Lyra. Initiate return protocol. Step forward. Mark aimed his weapon at the sky. Don't listen to them. Lyra looked at him. Tears in her glowing eyes. I don't want to hurt anyone, she said. But if I go with them, they'll use me. If I stay, they'll destroy this colony. To get me. She took a deep breath, then whispered, There's only one way to stop this. I need to remember who I really am. Mark grabbed her hand. You are my daughter, she smiled. And I'll always be. But now, I have to finish what they started. The colony moon was gone. Or almost gone. Ash floated in the air. Buildings were on fire. The ground cracked like broken glass. The black ship in the sky had opened fire, not on Lyra, but on everyone around her. Mark stood among the ruins, holding Lyra in his arms, running toward the emergency hangar. Behind them, the sky screamed with the sound of falling metal and burning fuel. They had no time. No home. No plan. Only one thought: escape. Just a little further, Mark shouted over the wind. Lyra's body pulsed with strange energy. Her skin flashed between blue and white. Her eyes were glowing, but she was silent, like something inside her was still waking up. Mark reached the hangar and found a small, old Earth shuttle, dusty, scratched, but still alive. He slammed the door shut and strapped Lyra in. Hold on, he said. She whispered. I'm scared. Mark looked at her. So am I. The shuttle blasted off just as a laser strike hit the ground below. The fire chased them into the sky, but they made it. Space opened in front of them, hours later. Deep in space, Mark sat in silence, staring at the control screen. Destination, Earth. He hadn't planned to go back. Earth meant danger, surveillance, governments, questions. But right now, it was the only place big enough to hide in. Lyra finally spoke. Something is changing in me. Mark turned to her. Like what? She looked at her hands. When I was little, I didn't feel much. Just light, warmth. But now, I feel pain and anger. And voices. Voices? Mark asked. She nodded. They talk to me. Not in words, in memories. Some are mine, some are not. Mark tried to stay calm. What do they say? Lyra looked at him, eyes deep and glowing. They say I was never supposed to survive. Suddenly, the shuttle shook. An alert beeped. Unidentified object detected. Incoming at high speed. Mark looked at the radar. No, not now. From behind, a small, sleek ship appeared. Silent, black with no lights. Lyra whispered, "That's not one of them." Mark narrowed his eyes. Then who is it? The enemy ship sent no warning. It fired. The shuttle rocked hard. Mark struggled to hold control. The enemy ship fired again. This time disabling the engine. They were falling toward Earth's atmosphere. We're going down. Mark shouted. Lyra reached out and touched the glass of the cockpit. I can stop it, she said. Mark shook his head. No, you'll burn yourself out. I have to try, she whispered. And then she closed her eyes. Her body lit up bright, blinding, her energy pouring into the ship like electricity. The falling slowed. The ship shook less. And then, silence. They crashed in a forest outside a quiet human town. Trees fell. Dirt exploded. But the shuttle didn't explode. It slept. Like Lyra, now unconscious in her seat. Mark pulled her out, carried her into the woods. He walked for hours, hiding her, moving through shadows, until he found an old bunker from the first Earth alien. War, abandoned, rusty, half-buried. He broke the door open and went inside. The bunker was full of dust and silence. But something strange was inside. A control panel. Still powered. Still glowing. He laid Lyra on a metal table and walked toward it. As soon as he touched the screen, it turned on. Voice recognition confirmed. Captain Mark Ellis. Project Guardian access restored. Mark froze. He had no memory of being a captain. No memory of anything called Project Guardian. A file opened, and on the screen was Lyra. Project name LYRA1. Status rejected prototype. Too powerful to control. Mark scrolled further. His name was listed again. Guardian assigned. Mark Ellis. Memory wiped. Emotional bond requested. Purpose. Human morality test. Mark stepped back. His heart was racing. They had used him, not to protect Lyra, but to see if she could be human. Behind him, Lyra woke up. Her voice echoed softly. Now you know. Mark turned to her, speechless. She stood slowly. No longer weak. No longer unsure. I wasn't just running, she said. I was being tested, trained, shaped. And now? Lyra looked up through the broken roof at the sky. Now they want To take me again, or destroy me. But I've made my choice. She looked at Mark. I'm not their weapon. And I'm not just your child. I'm something new. Asterisk, a soft hum filled the old bunker. It was not from machines. It came from Lyra. She stood in the center of the room, eyes closed, hands open. Light moved slowly around her body, like golden mist. The walls shook gently, like they could feel her. Mark watched in silence. He didn't speak. He didn't interrupt. He just waited, because he knew she was choosing who she would become. They want me to choose war, Lyra said suddenly. Her voice was calm. Hollow. They want me to hate humans. To erase your cities. To bring back their lost world by ending yours. Mark stepped closer. But you're not one of them. Lyra opened her eyes. I'm not one of you either. The control panel behind them blinked again. A new file appeared. Project. Lyra. Final directive unlocked. If subject becomes unstable, Guardian is ordered to terminate. Mark froze. He stared at the line of text. Terminate. Kill her. His hands shook. His mind screamed. They had given him this child. This girl, not to raise her, but to judge her. And if she failed, to end her. Lyra looked at the screen. I saw that in my dreams, she said softly, over and over. Mark turned off the display. You're not a project. Not anymore. She smiled, but it was a broken smile. I'm still made of code, Mark. DNA they mixed like paint. Emotions they programmed, but then. She touched her chest. You taught me to feel something real, not from my creators. From you. Suddenly, a loud crash outside. The ground shook. Mark grabbed his weapon. They found us again. The bunker lights flickered. From the shadows outside, voices echoed. Robotic, cold, echoing across the trees. Subject located. Power levels unstable. Initiate capture. Mark ran to the door and looked through a crack. At least 6 soldiers in. Black armor, not human. Not alien. Synthetic hybrids sent by the same creators who made Lyra. But Lyra stood still. No fear in her eyes, only focus. I can stop them, she said. Mark turned sharply. No, you don't have to fight. Yes, I do, she said. Because they won't stop chasing me. Not until I become what they want. Or what they fear. Her voice changed, quieter. I'm tired of running, Mark. The door exploded open. Smoke rushed in. The soldiers stepped forward, aiming weapons. Mark raised his gun. But before he could fire, Lyra stepped past him. She held up her hand. The air vibra to edet. The soldiers froze, literally. Their bodies stopped mid-step, like time had paused around them. Mark's eyes widened. How are you doing this? She turned to him. I'm not just light, or memory, or programming. I'm will. Then she dropped her hand. The soldiers dropped too, unconscious, not dead. Mark looked around in disbelief. You could have killed them, he said. I didn't want to, she replied. I wanted you to know. I still choose who I become. They walked through the smoke and out of the bunker together. The forest was quiet again. The night sky above them was full of stars. Mark asked, so what happens now? Lyra looked up. I'm done being a weapon. She looked at Mark. But I still need to know if you see me as your daughter. Mark didn't answer right away. Instead, he did something he hadn't done in months. He hugged her, tight, real, no matter what you were made for, he whispered. You're my daughter. You always were. Far above them, in orbit. Inside a cold, dark ship, a camera blinked off. A voice spoke in an alien human language. Test complete. Phase 3. Prepare Earth for contact. A second voice added, Subject LWRA has passed. But the human is still a variable. Dawn broke over the ruined forest. Golden light filtered through broken branches. Ash still floated in the air like tiny stars. The world seemed quiet, as if holding its breath. Mark and Lyra stood on a small hill above the wreckage of the old Earth alien war bunker. They had been inside all night, talking and planning. Now the moment of truth had come. Below them, the forest trembled. A massive alien ship began its slow descent, engines humming like distant thunder. It glowed faintly green, covered in strange runes that pulsed with energy. Lyra's mother, Sira, hovered outside the ship's open bay. She was older now, lines of battle and time marking her face. Her glowing eyes held both hope and sorrow. Inside the bay, rows of human soldiers and alien hybrids waited. They carried strange weapons and wore mixed armor, symbols of the creators who had built Lyra. They hoped to see her choice and then follow her command. Mark took Lyra's hand. His grip was firm. His voice was calm but firm. "Lyra," he said, "they're waiting." She nodded, her silver-white hair drifting in the morning light. She felt the power inside her, humming. She could destroy this ship with a thought. Or she could heal the world it stood on. Her body pulsed between blue and white, as if torn between two hearts. Sira called out in a clear, melodic voice, "Child, come home. You belong with us, your makers, your family." Lyra looked at her mother. For a moment, she saw the gentle woman who had given her to Mark, then the cold commander who had hunted her. Two halves of the same soul. Mark watched her face. He saw fear, love, anger, and hope, all mixed together. Lyra stepped forward. Her voice echoed across the clearing, soft but carried on the wind. "I know who I'm meant to be." She closed her eyes and lifted her hands slowly. Light spread out, touching the trees, the soldiers, the ship itself. The runes on the hull glowed brighter. Her voice grew stronger. "I was made to bring war, to end worlds, but I have found something new." The runes flickered and then dimmed. The ship shuddered but did not fall. Lyra opened her eyes. They shone golden, full of warmth. "I choose peace." At her words, a wave of light washed over the clearing. Soldiers dropped their weapons, stunned. Alien hybrids froze mid-step. The ship's hum slowed to silence. Mark saw tears on Sarah's cheeks. Something softened in her eyes. She lowered her arms. Lyra spoke again, her voice carrying. "To every ear, people of Earth, people of my home world. I am Lyra. I am not your weapon. I am your daughter. I offer you peace between our worlds." Mark stepped beside her. He raised his own hand. He was no longer a soldier with orders. He was a father. "Let us build together," he said. "Let us learn together. Let us choose life over destruction." Below them, the hybrid soldiers slowly removed their helmets. Humans and aliens looked at each other with wonder. Many wept. Some bowed their heads. The great ship's bay doors closed gently, then opened to release glowing vines that spread into the forest, healing broken trees and flowers. Sira floated down to Lyra's side. She brushed a strand of silver hair from Lyra's face. "I am proud of you," she whispered. "You have done what we could not." Lyra smiled, then looked at Mark. "Thank you for showing me love." Mark pulled her into a hug. Light shone around them, but it felt safe warm, like morning sun. Far above in orbit, the hidden machine race watched the scene on their screens. They had planned to conquer or be conquered. They saw Lyra's final choice. A voice crackled in the void of space. Subject Lyra has passed. War is no longer necessary. Another voice answered softly. Prepare for Phase 4, integration. But below on the forest hill, no one heard those words. They only heard the whisper of new leaves, the murmur of life returning, and the laughter of a child who had finally found her home.